If you're an Android user and you are looking for a new app to listen to your podcasts, head on over to the Google Play Store and check out the Podcast Republic app. You don't have to take my word for it because there are thousands of positive reviews on there. There are all sorts of great features. I like the fact that if you favorite your favorite shows, they download right away, so you never have to think about it. If you're still remembering what days the show comes out and looking for it manually, I do not understand your logic. But if it works for you,
or if you're like me and you've asked your Google Home, what day of the week is it? Because in social distancing, who knows what day of the week it is?
Yeah, no,
with all the Facebook Lives going on, I have to be like, wait a minute, it's on Saturday. Eric Jaffe's does their drag brunch. What day of the week is it?
Yeah, no, I it's gotten to the point where I need my phone every morning when I wake up to be like, good morning. It is 8:30 a.m. on Friday, March 27th.
You need Hal?
Yeah, I do. And then when it's like, we are going to incinerate you, I'm like, probably for the best, honestly, at this point. Check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Don't forget, folks, Listener Request Month ends at the end of April. If you're listening to it when this episode comes out, you got about a week and a half left. So that's 856-DISSECT. And if you're international, leave a voicemail at dissectingthe80s@gmail.com. Do a voice memo and email it to us. And then please just put in the subject Listener Request Month. Can't wait to see what you all have picked. And we'll let you know sometime in May when we will do the drawing for that.
Hopefully it will go better than last drawing.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bad live stream. Apparently, you can't add people to Facebook ones anymore, so we're gonna have to come up with a new place to do it. But that's fine.
Yeah, I know Instagram lets you add, but for some reason Facebook took that feature away.
Yeah, so whatever, we'll figure it out. We'll announce that in May, so you all can join us.
Oh, you know that they're adding that feature back in with all these lives go. Like 100%, Facebook Live is going to be this crazy new system by the time we do it.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we'll let you know and keep an eye out for that. But it's 856-DISSECT. If you need to roll that back and listen to it again, go ahead and do that. I guess I should say the actual numbers. That's 856-3477-328. If you need to hear that again, just rewind it. It's a podcast.
Stop listening at 1.25 speed.
Exactly. This is your penalty for that. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am one half of the mega podcasting powers, Trip Lano, and with me, as always, is a man who knows that if the joint doesn't look right, you shouldn't smoke it. The Macho Man,
Andrew Lano. And yeah, there was a lot of as someone who did a lot of on-stage pot smoking and like first time on-stage pot smoking, this was very indicative.
Yeah, this is a very Reefer Madness-y movie.
It is.
In honor of the day today, which is 420, we watched The Class of Nuke Em High. So you know what that means.
What if we dip Cool Ranch Doritos in French onion dip?
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
I'm gonna start off with a question. Are you a Troma guy?
So, I love what they do as a concept.
Yes.
Like, they make movies. Like, they put their heart and soul into them and $3. And
yes.
But there's so much, like, effort and heart into it that I respect it so much. Because I feel like a lot of, even the stuff we've watched on here that has bigger budgets, like, I'm like, you don't want to be here. Like I don't get it. But everyone in this movie gives a shit. Like, gives so much shit.
Yes.
And that's what I really appreciate, because I'm like, as a performer and like someone who does artsy stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like, you all want to be here. You all care. Everyone's giving effort. You all want this to turn out well. So I respond really well to that. The movies themselves, they're, whatever. I can take or leave them.
Yeah.
But like the idea behind them, I absolutely love.
You always get this sort of, well, we're all friends and we're getting together to put on a show in like almost, and I know we make these comparisons way too much, but like almost Muppet-esque.
It is very Muppet. Like these are the movies the Muppets make. in their movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're very, like, this movie, I would say, is charming, which is bonkers for a movie about.
Oh, this movie charmed the pants off me.
Yeah. But it's not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's a bit of a rough watch. Yeah, yeah. The only other one, I've seen a couple. I've seen Toxic Avenger, and I remember watching Toxic Avenger. I was still living at home at the time, and
TV edit or DVD?
It was probably on a on-demand situation or something along those lines. But I remember having the same reaction that Kevin Smith talks about when he saw Slacker by Richard Linklater, where he was like, "Oh, that counts? Like, that counts as a movie?" And I remember it feeling, as someone who, you know, has had ideas of, you know, oh, maybe I want to make movies, it being like, oh, that counts? Well, like, I could do that. Like, that's not that, like, they did that, I could do it too.
Yeah.
And in a sort of inspirational way, like, not dunking on them, but it's interesting because I feel like the only sort of parallel to Troma would be early Roger Corman, but those were studio budgets or not studio budgets, but like bigger budgets. They were funded by a larger group of people. And so you ended up with a lot more big time talent people who worked for cheap or free and then like moved on to better things. Although Troma, a lot of the same things. James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, his first thing he worked on was he wrote Tromeo and Juliet. Which is why I think he has the sense of humor that he does. Lloyd Kaufman, the director of this movie and the head of Troma, is actually in all of at least both of his Guardians movies. I'm not sure if he's in all of his movies, but he's in a good chunk of them.
Fun fact, so a lot of cable networks have put a shitload of free content up now because they won't be able to stay inside, in addition to like theater movies for rent. So I've been looking through all the free movies, and I went through free horror, and for some reason, Guardians of the Galaxy is in there, like in a weird accidental Babadook.
Is it actually?
Yes.
The Marvel movie.
It's the poster. It's the Marvel poster, but I think it's a weird Babadook situation where like it's not supposed to be there, but it's made me laugh.
But yeah, Lloyd Kaufman has a cameo in at least the first Guardians. He's in the prison, one of the prison sequences.
Okay, I mean that seems like an easy spot for Cameo City.
Oh yeah. He's like an old man cheering at the railing. So next time you watch Guardians of the Galaxy, when there's a shot that seems kind of like it's where they first get into the prison and the one who gets beat up when they first get there. Is it Chris Pratt?
I think it's Chris Pratt.
Okay, and they show this shot of a bunch of people at a railing cheering. The little old guy in the middle is Lloyd Kaufman. I read his book and it was like very fun, and he talks a lot about.
Is it a biography?
Tips and it's sort of a manual for making low budget movies mixed with biography.
I'm into that. I'm very into that.
Yeah. So one of the things he talks about a lot is that how much of their budget went to Alka-Seltzer tablets as a joke, but they do that so much in this movie.
They even do it.
Yeah, I get it.
As Alka-Seltzer in the movie.
Yeah. So we are gonna make fun of this movie. I think this movie is super duper charming. I don't think it's good, but it does have a quality to it that I like. But I would say the long way around to get to the point of I don't think I'm a Troma guy. I've seen a few other ones, and the older Troma is way more charming than the newer Troma to me. Like once CGI got in there and stuff, it became a lot less.
You know what I think it is?
Charming and fun.
I think it's because I did community theater growing up. Where it's a lot of people who care, but like you have $5, a communal lipstick, and a box of combs. Like, make it work. I think that's probably why I'm so charmed by Troma. I'm like, that's what this feels like. This feels like the fucking the teen summer shows I used to do.
Right. It's just we're gonna put on a show with what we got, and that's what we're doing.
I also did Zombie Prom as one of those shows, so that's sort of a connection.
Yeah. So this is the class of Nuke Em High, 1985?
6, I think.
6?
I think it's 6.
Okay. We start at a nuclear test site.
Well, there's a weird pre-credits. Did you notice that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So there was like a shot of a skyline.
Oh, we should say before we get too far, this is totally free on YouTube. We'll post that. We'll have posted that in advance, but in case you missed it, this is free on YouTube if you want to watch it.
And it is less than 90 minutes, and about 17.
It's 80 minutes.
Seven to
it's
10 minutes of that is padding.
Yes, it is a tight 80.
Beautiful.
It could be a tight 70.
It's beautiful. But yeah, so there's this weird shot of a skyline in silhouette, and it says like so-and-so director presents a Troma production. And I was like, oh, the credits. And then that fades away. And then we get a different skyline where it says so-and-so Productions presents a Tromaville production. And I was like, there was a pre-credit to the credits?
That's weird. I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
at all.
it's like there's a few second skyline, and then there's this like the establishing montage of stuff.
Interesting. We go to a nuclear test site where there's an active spill going on, and the gentleman in charge of the nuclear power plant is administering a cover-up.
Yes. He's very much like, this is the Wayne Knight role.
Yes. This guy is a Troma regular. I think his name is Paul May. He passed away in the early 90s, but he was in a bunch of their stuff. He's definitely in the Toxic Avenger. He may be in some other ones.
Yeah, I've never actually fully seen Toxic Avenger, because the child murder scene, just I know it's going to be there, and I know it's going to be a rough watch.
Right.
I've seen clips, but never the whole thing.
Honestly, like, you've seen this, you've seen them all, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of the bits in here are similar to bits in Toxic Avenger. The nuclear fallout, nuclear waste stuff was a big Troma thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
that feels easy to create. Like, you would just get a barrel, fill it with water, and then put a pump under it so it bubbles, and boom.
Green food coloring, and you're set. You don't even need to put a pump. Just drop a block of dry ice in there.
Well, that costs money.
Well, probably more than rigging up a pump, or probably less than rigging up a pump.
I don't know. I'm thinking like a tube with a bike pump, and just someone off screen's like.
Yeah, maybe. This nerdlinger is at the water fountain, and he's drinking this very green water.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously bad. And we go to the classroom where there's this overwhelmed old lady teacher, and we meet the rest of our cast. John Mulaney.
Thank God, because that was my note. The whole time I was like, did they cut in a John Mulaney SNL sketch that I don't remember?
Yeah. It is so, he is so John Mulaney-ish. It's ridiculous.
Now I just want John Mulaney to do that as a costume, and for Petunia to be the monster.
Yeah. No, I would be in for that. Petunia is John Mulaney's dog, by the way.
She has a French accent.
We also have this group of people that are called the Cretans. They're a gang, but they're wearing leather and face paint. Some of them are wearing bondage gear. So there's
it's all makeup, tattoos, and body modifications, and they're so queer. I love it. Because there's one gang member who isn't dressed like any of the others. They wear like a lavender sweater vest over a darker purple button down with what looks like bunched up tissue boobs and lipstick and sunglasses, and they just hang out with they're just part of the gang, and everyone else
is in leather
spikes,
and like sort of
studs.
Biker to S&M ballpark.
And then there's this person who looks like they go to the country club.
Except they are
part of this gang,
either trans. But they're also. But I'm saying they're
part of the non-binary androgyny spectrum. It's fascinating.
I'm not trying to necessarily label this person, but they stick out amongst this group by both their clothes and the fact that the gang doesn't seem bothered by the fact that this person is not identifying by a straight label, despite the fact that the gang throws the F word around willy-nilly.
Oh yeah, that word gets tossed around, which makes me think they are gay, because groups of gays do that. And that's okay among them.
Yeah. She uses it as a slur.
She does. Well, yes, obviously. Obviously. But
anyway, so the one that has like a ring through his nose, and he's wearing a mouthpiece or a mouth guard all the time.
I felt so bad for that poor actor, because I could not imagine having to, because it's a double mouth guard. It's like an upper lower mouth guard, because when he spits it out, it like catches on the rings in his nose. And I was just like, I would hate that so much.
Oh, for sure. I hated wearing one when I played football, and it was actually necessary.
But that also feels like in a Troma production, I don't think that might have been his choice.
Yeah, it could have very
like,
well
I wouldn't be shocked if they were like, he was like, I thought it'd be funny.
He brought his own mouth guard from home, probably.
Yeah, it was his night guard. He slept in it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So the nerdlinger who drank the green water, he starts having a freak out, and then he does a classic Troma Alka-Seltzer, but with green food coloring in your mouth. So he's foaming at the mouth, and he's having this whole freak out. He jumps out the window, and then when he lands,
beats someone
it
up.
becomes...
He
that's
attacks
right. He
someone.
does start throwing
and
punches.
I thought, zombie movie.
Yeah,
and then, he's just like a little more aggressive.
Yes. But that leads to him jumping out the window. No dummy, which I was a little disappointed by. But when he lands, he starts melting, and it's a very cool effect.
It's very
shot.
Evil Dead.
Oh, for sure. The special effects person who is credited with of creature effects or something to that ilk. He went on to do King Kong design in the 2005 Peter Jackson one.
Really?
He works for Weta. And then the person who was credited as the pyro person was a special effects person who still works today, works on like stuff like the John Wick movies, all sorts of stuff you've heard of. So
I want to get into
that's why
those
the
movies.
effects are very good. They're very entertaining. This is a literally perfect time in your life to watch the John Wick
because
movies.
It's all because they kill his dog, right? And so he goes nuts. Like that's why he goes back in the game.
He gets out of the Hitman game in the first movie, and then the subsequent movies is just trying to get back out of the Hitman game, but things get progressively more and more ridiculous. I'd say the first one is the best. The third one is second best. The second one I didn't like as much, but you could knock that trilogy out in a day with some cocktails and have yourself a good old time.
That's fun. Okay.
He creatively murders a lot of people.
Into it.
It's gun fu.
Okay.
So it's fighting that includes kicking and punching and also interesting ways to shoot people.
Interesting.
There's things where he's like slamming guns down onto clips on tables and then doing like a flip
I love that.
shooting people.
It's so not real, but I love when in Kick-Ass when Hit Girl throws the clip in the air and then slams her gun midair. Oh my god, that's so great.
Yeah. John Wick kills one guy with a pencil at one point, which is delightful.
Yes, here for it.
So yeah, that's a solid quarantine recommendation.
The nerd jumps out the window and melts into a pile of, cream corn.
And then we get to we get this shot of the owner of the nuclear plant who's like defending the plant and that it can't be them. He's like, we've heard actually that this young man had 2 microwaves in his home. So we think that's
not
the
2
cause for
microwaves.
this.
2 microwave ovens.
Oh,
which
right.
is
2
the
microwave ovens.
quickest way to make your whatever you're doing sound like the 80s.
Yes,
a microwave oven. And so he jumps out the window. There's all this press, and then there's kind of like a montage, and we see someone spray painted the high school to say Nuke Em High. And I was like, okay, time has passed. And they're like, no, it was yesterday that this happened. And I was like, this was fast.
Yeah. I think it was the Cretans. They also play this song, which is kind of okay, surprisingly.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love that we get to hear title theme songs in our line of work. It's really lovely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not something you get much anymore, but I do like that.
Did we already have a conversation about the last time they did like a theme song for a movie?
I feel like we did, because isn't that why we talked about James Bond themes for a while?
Maybe, because I know we also talked about like Wild Wild West.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like Will Smith was the end of theme song.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad song.
One of the Cretans... No, this one is pretty good. One of the Cretans has a legit cow femur. He's got a huge caveman bone.
He's the one who acts like a caveman and an animal sometimes.
Yes.
And we find out that the gang, the Cretans, used to be the Honor Society.
Right, which is something I feel like I would have liked to see in the movie.
Like, give me a flashback, because they're selling drugs and they're a gang, and we find out that they're selling drugs, like pot that's raised, pot that's grown on... Grown. I was like, that's not the word. Should we just spend the rest... Should this be the podcast where we talk about drugs as though we are moms and police officers, like doing a pot?
I mean, it would be a pretty close to accurate real-life representation of both of us. So...
I still laugh about the time I said doing pot, because we were talking about doing cocaine, and then I accidentally said doing pot. That sounded the lamest I've ever sounded. Because we find out that the Cretans are selling pot that's grown in the nuclear power plant, like on the campus of the power plant. So it's radioactive pot. And I was like, so did that make the like what? I want to know, because drinking the water made the nerd jump out the window. So like, how did the Cretans get to this? Like what has to happen to get you to this level?
John Mulaney smokes the weed, and then he has super strength.
Once.
Yeah.
One time.
Okay. Well, still.
You get one.
If you smoked it repeatedly, you'd have lots of super strength.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's the only downside to this movie, in my opinion, is that like a little more backstory and explanation would have gone a really long way to like really solidifying this movie.
Yes, exactly.
So they beat up a nerd, the Cretans, and because they want him to,
and to make him buy weed, which is so
no,
silly.
pay for it. He already bought it. This is the first
true.
time.
Okay,
He already bought it.
I get. Okay.
And so they want his money. And so they like, it's like weird, like sexy beat ups. It's weird.
Yes. And the sound effects are really silly.
It's like Indiana
too.
Jones level.
Yeah. Big, loud, like punches. But after this, they go to buy the weed, like we said. And then one of them, first of all, these are the fakest looking weed plants I've ever seen.
It's so plastic.
Yeah, but then one of them just starts like gnawing on a leaf as if he's a rabbit, and I was like, I don't know a lot about this.
But I'm pretty sure that's not how that
you
works.
have to dry it first, yeah, and then you have to do other things to be able to eat it.
It looks like you went to like Party City and got like, you know, I'm trying to think what would the costume name for a
hippie?
Would it be a hippie?
It would either hippie is probably fine. So it would be like it'd be Rasta Man, and it'd be a white guy on the package in a weed shirt, like a bad Hawaiian shirt with weed leaves all over it, a Rasta cap with fake dreadlocks, and then this plastic weed plant that he would hold.
Or like a lei. I'm thinking like you buy like whatever costume has like a lei of plastic weed leaves.
Yeah,
because it's
a lei of plastic weeds.
Yeah, a lei of plastic weeds. Because it's just so, it looks like a fake house plant that a mom would have in the 90s.
Yeah, it does. And it's the kind of thing where you'd like come home and see it on the table and be like, does she know what that is? Probably not, right?
I'm not going to tell her. Well, what's the tree that has similar shaped? Is it the oak tree? Or oak leaves the ones that are... Because there's trees in the Philly area that like have like skinnier versions of the pot leaf, but they look almost pot leaf if you just glance at them quickly.
Huh. I don't know the species of tree you're talking about. I do vaguely know what you're talking. I've seen that, but I don't know the species, obviously.
There's also this stupid moment where there's for some reason a bunch of cakes on tables outside.
Yeah, well, it's a bake sale.
Is it a bake sale? I didn't see a sign. Yeah, okay, I missed the sign.
But instead, like normally when you go to a bake sale, the things are in like one person packaging of some type. Like even if it's just a piece of cake on a a little paper plate with cling film over top or whatever. Yeah. But it's a whole ass cake, like it's a wedding.
So it's a bunch of like normal looking cakes, pies, whatever they could like make or find at the grocery store, and then there's a 6-tier wedding cake essentially.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, gee. And it looks like it's covered in shaving cream, not whipped cream. And I was like,
I don't think it's actually a cake. I do like my guess
sponges.
Is that it's kitchen sponges covered with shaving cream.
Yeah, because I was like, gee, I wonder what's the most important thing on this table, and something's gonna happen to. Right. And they drive a motorcycle through it, and it just all goes in the air, and it's great.
It is a really
the
fun
men
scene.
at the power plant are eating their lunch out of uranium holding boxes. It's such a delight.
Yeah, and the one guy's like, "What do you got today?" And he's like, "Oh man, chicken again." And it's just a whole chicken leg on the bone between two slices of bread.
Slices of bread. I love it so much.
It's like the leg and thigh when I say whole leg. It's like the whole joint.
Yeah.
And then the other guy is like, "Oh man, bologna and cheese." And the top layer of bread is like the size of a chicken nugget, and the bottom is a whole sub roll. I don't quite know what happened there.
It's so great. This movie is charming.
Yeah, no, it's stupid as hell, but it has its moments. Particularly, I think the end actually kind of rules.
Oh yeah,
we'll get there. I don't want to jump to it, but the beginning part, I'm a little bit like, eh. So these dorks invite girls to a party. They sit down at their lunch table, and it's the very classic "you can't sit here" kind of thing. But they invite them to a party with special weed and bikinis.
Yeah, it's a college party, and he goes, "Well, come over at 8 for the party." And I was like, "What college party starts at 8:00?"
I feel like 8:00 wasn't that unusual for me.
Our theater parties were always like 9:10.
Yeah, maybe 9 feels more right.
Although I guess a lot of times we also had to finish our show. I guess it was the show had to finish and then we did the party.
I feel like we would start pre-gaming in the 7:30 to 8 o'clock ballpark and then roll out at 9.
Okay, that's fair.
We would play Tiger Woods golf and drink.
Wait,
and
like
then we would go out.
the ball, the
Video
stand up.
No, on the Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to finish our.
Great game for drinking because you only have to be active for like a minute and a half at a time, and then you're just talking. It's a really great social
Good
game.
to know.
Yeah.
Okay, we always had it. The show had to finish, and then we could do our party.
I was gonna bring that up. I was like, if you were in production, that seems like you guys would be started drinking at 10:30 or whatever.
Yeah, it was 9 to 10:30 depending, because usually not everyone, like we weren't all in the same show, so like people who weren't in the show and weren't at the show could start the party.
Right.
And then everyone has to get changed into their theme costume.
Sure. A sexy teen and old age makeup.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Cretans force this guy to buy nuclear weed, and it's very funny because they're like grabbing this guy by the lapels and forcing him to buy this drugs from him, even though he like wanted to buy drugs in the first place. But then they're like, "Oh, you got to buy the nuclear weed. It costs this much." And the guy's like, "That seems like a lot for weed."
It's $10 for one joint.
And then it's like they're robbing him, but also giving him something to take away.
Yeah, it's kind. So they go to this college party, which is an indoor beach party, which
Yes.
I thought would mean sand.
No, they can't afford that.
Well, so there was a bar in Westchester that did personal happy hours where like you could submit your name and they picked out of a hat, and like 4 people got happy hours, and the like host of if you were the host, you got free drinks for the night, and everyone who came in had to said someone's name, and if you were the person who brought the most people, you got a bottle of champagne at the end of the night. Basically, it was just a trick to get people to show up.
Yes, exactly. I was like, this is the oldest scam in the bar book. There's a place in Baltimore that used to do the same thing, and I would always have people win and be like, I won this thing. I was like, you didn't win anything. That's not a prize. I just am going to a shitty bar.
Well, I did it once, and I was the happy hour host, and it was beach party night, and so the dance floor was like a step down. So there's the bar, and you step down into the dance floor area, and they filled it with play sand for the night.
Wow, that's such a pain in the ass to clean up.
They did it. It was great though.
That's wild. There's random nudity. This woman is just standing there, and all of a sudden her shirt gets ripped off, because of course it does. But we do get Mulaney in a Speedo, so at least kind of.
It could have been it was a weird. It was one of those tall Speedos that like.
Yeah, it was wrestling trunks. I think.
Because I was like, there's too many dudes in shirts, because almost all the women are in bikinis, and then a bunch of I'm like, take your fucking top off, bro. Like, come on.
At least be unbuttoned.
Yeah. But then, so on stage...
Like, I'm not taking my shirt off at this party, but I'm unbuttoned a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a long sequence of the band playing, because I guess they're trying to pad it as close to 90 minutes as they could get it.
My hunch is a twofold. It's that, and then also the second part being they got the band to be in the movie in exchange for featuring them a lot.
Oh, okay. And maybe the band provided something.
So it's like, yeah, the band, like, we'll use your song, but you have to be in the movie and play it, kind of thing. Because they look on a green screen.
Oh, you think?
I got the impression that they were kind of superimposed in.
Well, but as they're playing, there's another dude Speedo in the background, and then there's a girl on stage with them. And I think it's the highest cut bathing suit we've ever featured on the show.
It's bonkers.
So it's the arm, the sleeve hole, the armhole, and then an inch below that seam is the seam of the bottom of her bathing suit.
Yeah, it's cuckoo.
So like, imagine a normal one-piece bathing suit, and where the top part ends, 1 inch below that, and then that's where the line to the crotch is. That's how high cut this was.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we start smoking the joint, and this is straight out of Reefer Madness, because like the original
40s.
What is it? Yeah, I know, but I was trying to think of like what you call that, propaganda
film.
movie. They hold the joint and they start to take a puff, and then it's a super tight close up on their face as the thing is glowing, and they're doing like bug eyed, like whoa.
See
face.
Me when I did Reefer Madness.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because right before this, the whole point of them buying the drugs for John Mulaney and his girlfriend was to get them to have sex. And then as John Mulaney's with the boys and his girlfriend's with the other girls, they're both making up excuses for not having sex with each other. And it's cute because it's like a back and forth of the same excuse. He's like, she's shy, I don't want to pressure her. And then she's like, he's shy, I don't want to put pressure on him. And I was like, wait, this is, give me more of this.
Yeah.
And then they smoke the atomic pot and go crazy.
Yeah, eventually Mulaney's like, this is terrible, and he throws it, and it gets stepped on, and the guy, like the dork guy, freaks out that his joint is ruined. Cut to Mulaney and Chrissy are going looking for the Fellini room, which is wild.
No.
They keep talking about Federico Fellini.
I think they were going to a Fellini movie. Like, I think there was like a Fellini movie playing that they went to this party instead.
I see. But they don't go to that. They just leave.
Yeah, so she goes up to look for the coats first, and then as though she's on ecstasy, just starts rubbing all over herself on the bed. And then John Mulaney comes up, and he's like, those guys are idiots, and turns around to see her, and straight up like Tex Avery, Zoot Suit Wolf. Aruga!
Yeah. She's like writhing around on the bed, like, I need you to touch me. I want another joint. And he's like, there's another joint. She's like, no, I mean this, and grabs his crotch.
So they go to Bone Town.
Weirdly, like, kind of nice. It's not what I expected out of this movie.
Yeah, it's not salacious. It's like tender.
Yeah.
So they bone, they go home.
Well, the dork's friends walk in and watch for a while also.
Oh yeah,
for no
forgot
reason.
about that. They go home. Hot Warren, because John Mulaney's name is Warren. I don't know if we said that.
No, I don't think so.
Blonde Mulaney starts transforming in the face and then gets
into his famous character George St. Geegland.
Wait, really?
He basically, you've never seen Oh Hello?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it started on Kroll Show and then eventually was on Broadway.
I knew it was on Broadway, and it's been on my Netflix list forever. I just haven't.
He looks like Mulaney in the old age makeup to play George St. Geegland.
Okay. And the biggest boner ever.
Yes, and he's like first excited by it, then afraid of it, and then back to excited by it.
And then Chrissy gets 9 months pregnant and sprouts a tentacle out of her belly button, and I was like, whoa, this movie wastes no time. And then it's just a dream sequence.
I thought it was going to be a spider thing, and I was like, oh crap, I'm going to have to warn Andrew about this.
Yeah, because it's like a weird spinny little tentacle moment. I was like, this is going to be a thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So we cut to the next day, and they're both feeling terrible. And the Cretans come by and steal Mulaney's food, and then one of them sexually assaults the German teacher, who's into it. And she cuts to her in the bathroom, turning herself into a Cretan.
Wait, that was her?
I'm 99% sure.
I couldn't figure out who that was supposed to be, but okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the German teacher.
Because then she spends the rest of the movie in her underwear with broken glass makeup.
Yes.
So Warren goes home sick, Blonde Mulaney, and all the electronics turn on when he walks by them. Yeah. And I wasn't sure what that was about. That's a weird...
It's just he has a nebulous set of nuclear powers, basically.
Yeah, so he like collapses and all the lights go crazy, and then we cut to the Cretans giving away the secrets of the trade for Troma Productions.
Yeah, the guy grabs an Alka-Seltzer and he pops it and he starts foaming at the mouth, and they use that as an excuse to get this old lady's purse. They're like, oh, he needs to bite down on something. Give me your purse. And then, of course, they run away. But I thought it was genuinely hilarious that a moment later, Mulaney comes walking up to them and he's all hulked out and foaming at the mouth. And they're like, we just did the Alka-Seltzer trick. What is this?
Yeah. Oh, they also beat the crap out of this old lady.
Oh, they really do. It's like a minute of these like Indiana Jones punch sounds.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Blonde Mulaney is a monster now. There's a bit that they do a couple times where like as someone foams at the mouth, their ears shoot out liquid. Yeah, I'm very curious how they did that.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out because it looked real and not like a dummy head.
Yeah, and it didn't look like it was like behind the ear. It's coming from inside the ear.
Yeah, I was very curious how they managed to pull that off.
So he kills some Cretans, stuffs his fist down the one guy's throat.
Yeah, it's really gnarly that you watch this happen.
And then he goes back to normal and never hulks out again.
Nope, never happens again. Even when it would be very helpful at the end of the movie.
Yeah, like that's what was very confusing about this movie. I was like, well, wait a minute.
I wonder if it was supposed to be that the nuclear joint gives you powers and they were fading?
Maybe. But yeah, I feel like this movie had a lot of ideas and then tried to do all of them.
Yes, that is Troma in a nutshell. It's like the script gets written by a group of people who all throw their ideas in, and all the good ideas go, whether they should fit in here or not. It's like, yep, we want that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one.
Yeah. And then Chrissy is sick, and her stomach starts bubbling and puffing, and then she vomits up a little creature into the toilet and goes to the hospital.
Yeah. And right before that, we get a roundup meeting with the Cretans where the main guy, Spike, is basically saying that he didn't see who attacked him. But we get this one Cretan who I hadn't noticed before, that his facial hair is just weird,
whiskers.
Random single tufts that, like, one's on the tip of his nose. They're just like in random places on his face.
It's very, because he shows up later, and I wrote him down as being an interesting one to look at.
Yeah. But yeah, we're in the hospital with Chrissy now. Yeah,
so Chrissy's in the hospital, and they say she miscarried, and that makes her mom scream, and some guy gets a face full of pee.
This is the second episode in a row where someone got a vial of pee directly to the face.
Welcome to the P-cast.
Nope. Sorry. Nope. Not even going to make the joke. That is not what this podcast is. You need to go elsewhere to get that content. Please and thank you.
So then, like, it's just funny because the hospital disappears. The whole hospital takes an Uber out of the movie. The whole plot point of Chrissy going to the hospital is just gone because...
That's it.
Well, at first, because Warren is there.
And the mom, who was mad at him.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I assumed that was going to be part of this, yeah.
Warren visits her in the hospital, and then when he leaves, the mom is like, you pig, you what did you do to my daughter? And then I was like, oh, there's going to be drama here. Like, this is going to be a plot point. No, not at all.
Yep. Not even a little bit.
So
hey, I brought this a truck. It's got like a whole flatbed back there. If you just want to get that hospital right up on here, I'll haul y'all wherever you need to go.
Don't I see you put quiet ride? Did you want me to not put on music?
What if I did, just like for irony's sake, what if I did I Don't Want to Die in the Hospital by that Connor Oberst side project I can't quite remember the name of, but it'll come to me eventually. Maybe you're more of a Tom Waits guy. I feel like he writes about being sick on a regular basis.
So the creature gets flushed down the toilet by another student and wiggles its way through the pipes.
To the random room full of nuclear barrels.
Well, first it goes to the cafeteria because there's...
Oh, right.
They got these two lunch ladies to like stare blankly at the camera and then at each other and then at the camera.
Yeah.
And then couple that with a reverse shot. So they were clearly just throwing dishes into this soapy water and then just ran it in reverse because the splashes are clearly splashes from landing in the water.
Yeah.
And then it goes into this room full of toxic waste. And I thought it was at the plant. Like, I thought it had gone through the pipes to the plant or whatever.
Right.
Like a Goonies moment. Because it splashes into this giant barrel of nuclear waste. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then we cut to Chekhov's laser.
Yeah, it's the first ever on the show that we've had it. And it's also hilariously sized. It's like a classroom tool. So it's 4 feet long and it's comically large.
It looks like a like if you, because at first I thought it was a black light, like when you buy those long black lights.
Oh yeah,
it's the length of one of those things.
It looks like a bazooka.
Yes,
honestly. It's also a really delightful 80s laser effect, which I enjoyed very much.
Yeah, it is. Someone got credited specifically for the laser effects in the beginning. I don't remember their name.
He's actually a person who still works in that field as an artist in New York.
Really? That's awesome.
I think he does sort of installation-y type stuff.
Okay. So then we see the Cretans trying to make that nerd from before buy more pot with this weird bathroom ruse.
Yeah, they have the woman go in and pretend to pee, but then we hear the actual sounds of pee, so I was kind of confused as to what was happening exactly. But then it leads to them beating him up to make him buy weed, and again, just rob him. I don't understand what the point of this is. It's not like it's not like they said, oh, our drug is super addictive, so if we get people to use it, then they will not be able to stop buying it, which would explain this. But instead, they're just robbing him and then giving him something afterwards.
Well, I mean, it is the 80s, so they probably thought, like, the general populace probably believed weed
That's
was,
true.
like, the most addictive thing in the world.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
So then Warren runs in and fights, and at first I was like, oh, he's gonna monster out and, like, win, and then that doesn't happen.
And then he gets swirlied, and I thought, oh, the monster's going to, like, leap into his mouth and take over his body, and that also didn't happen.
Yeah, instead, the principal shows up, I think it is. Or...
I believe he's a
just a
teacher. Because the principal's the guy who they go talk to in his office.
Right. So he brings him to the principal's office, and they keep talking about permanent records, which I don't think... They were not a real thing, right?
I mean, everyone talked about your permanent record, but I don't know that it made much of a difference. It's not like they're hiring you at 22 and they're like, now this here is your permanent record from high school, and it says that you got a detention.
Well, I'm just curious. I don't know if they ever exist. Like, I don't believe that they were real.
I mean, I think you do have a permanent record, as in there is a record of your transgressions at school where, like, maybe detention isn't logged on this thing, but a larger act would be.
Okay.
As two good boys, I don't know that it was really something that happened to us. Literally the only time, I think I've probably told this story before, but it's relevant. It's a high school movie. The only time I ever got called to the principal's office was the high school we went to had long, skinny lockers, and then you could hit this little lever and flip open a wider compartment up at the top. So you could have
I forgot this story.
Wider storage space. So I'm standing at a locker with a friend of mine, and there was this thing we would do where you'd put a pencil in the top locker thing and it would stick out, and then you could kind of smack it and it would just bounce. It would hit, like the pencil would hit and it would bounce back. It would be like, a loud, noisy, annoying thing because I was 17 years old and an asshole. And I was doing that at my friend's locker while he was getting a book, and we were having a conversation, and then I slammed it and it shut all the way, and we were like, oh shit, like we were trying to jimmy it open and we couldn't get it to open. So fast forward to, I think it was a day later, but there was a book up there that he needed and he couldn't get into the locker, and so he got the janitor staff to help him, and the poor janitor was like trying to crowbar this thing open, and eventually he just like pried it open. It was a pencil, it was wood, it just broke, right? Like luckily it wasn't a pen.
Oh my god, yeah.
But I got called down to the principal's office, and I had never been called down to the principal's office before. So I like leave class and I go down, and I go into the office, and he sits me down and he's like, do you know why you're here? And I was like, honestly, no. And he's like, yeah, I've never seen you before. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, if I told you it had to do with a pencil in a locker, would you have something to say? And I was like, yeah. And I just told the story. I was like, I explained exactly what I did. I was like farting around, like being an idiot, and I hit it too hard and it shut. And then I was like, beyond that, I don't know. And he explains that like the janitor went, and it turns out my friend, I'm going to say his name was Mark. He sold me out like the second that he could be sold me out. He was like, immediately he throws me under the bus, which is fine. Like I did it, but like, man, you talk about a snitch. Mark, of course, is telling the story that like, oh, the janitors, they're prying it open, sweating, and being like, who did this? How could someone do this? This is such a thing. And I'm sure that, and literally now as an adult, I'm sure he went like, and it popped right open, right? It's a piece of pencil. It would have snapped immediately. So I'm sure he just like had Mark hold the tab up, and then he yanked it with a crowbar and it popped right out. But of course, Mark's version of the story, he was like, tied to a chair and beaten with jumper cables.
Crank it again.
Luckily... Yeah, exactly. So the principal's like, look, they opened it without any damage, so nothing really is wrong here. But I just want to tell you that like, if ever anything happens again, I'm not gonna like keep like you're getting a freebie here, but if something else happens, we're gonna count this not as a freebie anymore, and it's gonna be like double. So I guess that was basically a permanent record threat without him saying permanent record. So that was my. You
slide Coach Matta's card, like business card, across the table, like you're the child of a police officer.
I think I had finished football at that point, but yeah, that did not buy me anything. Having been captain of the football team did not get me any special treatment. Yeah, I think the special treatment came from the guy who was like, "This is very stupid. It was clearly not malicious. I just don't want to deal with this anymore."
Yeah, the only time I only ever went to the principal's office because I scheduled a meeting with him.
Dork.
No, I was trying to save my musical because he was We were supposed to...
Right, I remember this whole
We were
story.
supposed to do a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, which is a really funny Sondheim musical. And like the musical gets announced in like May for the following
Right.
year. And so it's been months. A week before the auditions are supposed to happen, they announced that he can't support the musical, so we have to pick a different one. And we were all like, what the hell? And so I scheduled a meeting with him to be like, I'm confused as to what happened because this has been announced since last year. And he was like, it's been brought to my attention that cause the show is about courtesans, who are basically prostitutes in ancient Rome. It's a comedy.
Right.
And he said, I'm concerned about the message it will send to our young women at school. And I was like, but what about the books we have to read in school where people get raped and murdered, like Lovely Bones and Streetcar Named Desire and stuff like that?
I still can't believe that we read Lovely Bones as a school book. That's still buckwild to me.
Because it's
because the author was local-ish, right? Doesn't it take place in Bucks County?
I think so. Well, they filmed the movie near our house.
Right.
But yeah, he said that, and so I brought up. I was like, well, the musical isn't required, but the required reading involves rape like this and rape and murder like this. So I'm just confused as to what's happening here. And he was like, please leave.
Yeah, because he doesn't actually want to listen to you. He just wants to appear that he listened to you.
Yeah. So instead we did Guys and Dolls, which is about stripping and gambling.
Yeah, it's much better. Speaking of things I would have liked to seen happen to principal character, if I was in high school, the guy starts frisking. I guess it's not the principal. I guess it's the teacher. But he starts frisking the cretins. He grabs her butt like way too much, and then the next person just farts right in his mouth, basically.
Well, him frisking the girl reminded me at TSA last year. We're going to Florida, so I'm dressed for warm Florida weather. I'm in very short shorts and tall socks and boots. And I got randomly assigned to, like, do the extra whatever. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And I walk over to the guy, and then he looks at me and, like, looks down at my outfit, and he's like... and he, like, begrudgingly, like, pats my socks. And I was like, what do you... Like, where am I hiding anything?
Yeah. Yeah. So ridiculous. Then we get, like, they all start singing the national anthem. Like, they throw him out of the school.
And they say it's a free country because that's every child and bully's favorite line.
Yes, yes. But I'm like, really? You got to make me sit through this song for a minute and a half? Like, what are we doing, Lloyd? You're killing me.
You got to pad it.
Yeah, I know. And they're like, we don't have to pay for that song.
We don't have to write anything. We don't have to pay for anything. It's going
Everybody
in the movie.
knows the words. Yeah.
So right after this, all these plant workers start collapsing and nobody cares.
Right. And they start doing a radiation search in the school while school is like fully in session. The cheer squad is practicing and there's a guy with a Geiger counter just waving it around at people.
It's hilarious. This is where Chrissy's out of the hospital and nobody cares. It's not a big deal at all. She's just hanging out with blonde Mulaney.
Well, I don't know if she's out of the hospital because the hospital took an Uber out of the movie. Oh. We just know that she's now here.
Yes, that's true. We get one Geiger counter worker guy goes to the school's basement and then takes off his respirator to reveal he's got a lit cigarette in there. And he's like, I can't breathe in here. And I was like, that is the best joke of this whole stupid movie.
Yeah. Oh, it is by far the best joke of the movie. This whole sequence is kind of bonkers because it's like maybe 5 minutes of he's smoking the cigarette. Then he's like looking at his Geiger counter and the needle is just bouncing haywire. And he thinks that means it's broken instead of it's very dangerous in here. Despite the fact that there is literally a barrel of open nuclear waste.
Well, I guess
4 feet from him.
I guess I would think that the Geiger counter the needle stays.
I guess that's true.
I've never operated a Geiger counter or been around. Although maybe we did in high school. Was that a high school thing?
No, I don't think we ever did Geiger counter stuff.
Yeah, I've never actually operated one, so I wouldn't know.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was high school stuff at one point. Like, hey, this is how this works. Look, this material is radioactive. But I can't imagine by the time we were in high school that there was irradiated material just like hanging out in a classroom.
Yeah. So he keeps being like, I should leave. He's like, no, this is my job. I technically have to. But he's like, I don't want to.
Yeah. And then he starts leaving, and then he is like, what's that smell? I guess I got to go look at it. And I was like, I don't think you do,
if
bud.
You're on your way
should
out.
Get
you can
out of
leave.
here. Yeah.
And he gets scratched in the face by the monster and then sucked into the barrel, and his hand gets spit out.
Yes.
And then I went, How are there only 25 minutes left in this movie?
Right. We hit the fast forward button at this point because it's 25 minutes, including 5 minutes of credits. So it's like, oh crap, we got to do Act 3 in double time.
And normally when I write that, I go, how are there still 45 minutes left?
Yes.
And I went, there's only 20 minutes left?
Yeah. There's more cover-up action at the school. The guy at the plant's like trying to hide what happened there.
Yeah. And then
The Cretans invade with guns a la... what's the movie we did with the guys on the motorcycles and the gang invading that?
Tough Turf?
No, it's an old one. It was a country club
Oh,
and Robert
Girls
Downey
Just Wanna Have
Jr.
Fun.
Is that? Oh my god! So it's all like the first episode.
What? Tough Turf had Robert Downey Jr. in the country club, but the motorcycle gang...
No, it was a cameo by RDJ because he was dating
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Parker, yeah.
Yeah, so it was Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. It was the
literally
first
our
episode.
first episode. And I think it's also in maybe a dream sequence in a Better Off Dead type movie. I'm picturing the bald guy with kind of an odd looking face.
I can see it, but I don't know which one.
Okay.
But yeah, the Cretan gang has a plan to get back at both the school and Blonde Mulaney.
Right, and they invade with motorcycles and guns and just start taking over.
Well, they make the principal say, like, where's the alarm for the nuclear, whatever. And so they say that, hey, there's a nuclear attack, and they hit the alarm bell. But also, this principal's office has, like, basically floor-to-ceiling windows in front next to it, the door, and nobody thinks to look out these windows to check for anything before they open the door.
Right. Everybody is maximum stupid because it's a Troma movie, sure, but also it's very confusing.
Yeah. So they kidnap Chrissy and take her to the basement and then evacuate the school and tell Warren, Blonde Mulaney, that, hey, your girlfriend's in the basement, come get her. And there's some really odd, like the really cool frenetic shots of everyone running out of the school and evacuating. Like the camera's really dynamic and really swirling around and moving. And I really like those shots.
Yeah, this whole sequence is very well photographed. I think you get some really cool bits where everybody's kind of like, they're spray paint on the walls and they're smashing stuff. I really quite like it.
I meant even before that, when everyone's leaving the school.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that is also very cool.
And then we meet a character now called Teru, she's a girl wearing a metal bra, and apparently she was supposed to be in the rest of the movie, but got into a car accident.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
So like she didn't die, but she wasn't able to film the rest of the movie. So that's why this character only appears at the end, because they had already filmed her stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the one girl gang member wasn't supposed to be the head. It was supposed to be the metal bra.
Oh, that is interesting.
And that's why there's a moment where, because this metal bra girl, the leader of the Cretans, like rips off Chrissy's necklace and hands it to her, and he's like, go give this to Blonde Mulaney. And then later we see the other gang member girl go, Teru wanted me to give you this. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, that is true. He also cuts her hand, and like it's very bright red paint blood that gets on the thing.
But yeah, the school gets vandalized. Like, it looks like months of abandonment vandalism within 30 seconds.
Yes.
They're driving around in their motorcycles, they're spray painting, they're smashing, they're throwing desks off the roof, like, and no one outside is talking about it. Like, there's no police there, like, oh no, those kids are doing vandalism. Like, there's nothing. Right.
It makes absolutely no sense. I finally found the biker movie. It is Weird Science, has an interlude. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It was like...
You're talking about one of our movies.
I know. I just forgot. I forgot.
Like, I would have said Weird Science.
Right, yeah, I wish you had.
Yeah, because the one biker's a teacher.
I had to get there via 80s actor Bald Scary, which brought up Michael John Berryman instantly.
Okay.
Who is the guy that I remembered.
Oh, yeah. He was also in Hills Have Eyes, I think?
Yes, he is the main Hills Have Eyes guy. I'm sorry. We were talking about this movie, and I just couldn't get that out of my brain.
So this is where the monster is, like, full grown. It punches through Teru's head, allowing
awesome.
Blonde Mulaney and Chrissy to escape. Also, like, I'm glad they put so much work into it and focused their energy where they did, because, like, the face looks amazing and the hands look really great, but you never see it fully because they never finished a full puppet.
That makes a lot of sense. I was sad, though, because I wish this monster had been the monster for the whole movie.
I do, too.
This is like way, way, way more interesting as a movie if this thing is the menace and not this gang. But I mean, for cost reasons, it makes sense. The other thing I found baffling is the Cretan is threatening to dismember Chrissy, and I don't get why. Like, it's such a wild transition to I'm going to cut this girl into pieces.
He blames Blonde Mulaney for getting kicked out of the school.
Oh,
so he's getting back at Blonde Mulaney.
That makes sense, I guess. It just seems like a wild overcorrection to be like, I'm going to cut this woman into little pieces.
Well, yeah, but you aren't a gang member.
No, that's true.
But yeah, so like at this point, we realize that the movie, there's been a gang selling drugs.
Yes.
Blonde Mulaney has turned into a monster once and fought them and won that fight. And also there is a nuclear monster.
Right. It's 3 different movies.
Yeah, it's too many movies. Like, but you can do 2 of those movies. Like, you could do monster fighting the gang. You could do Blonde Mulaney as a monster fighting the gang. You could do Blonde Mulaney as a monster fighting the monster. I'm down for that movie.
Right.
But
yeah, no, me too.
It's a little disconnected, but still very charming.
Yeah.
So Blonde Mulaney and his girlfriend run away through the school, and the monster one by one kills every Cretan.
Yeah, it's gnarly too. The face ring guy in particular gets it pretty bad.
Yeah, he gets a tentacle through the back of the head that pokes out his eye and like chokes him.
Yeah. And then the bald cap mohawk guy gets his head knocked off and it rolls down the hallway, which I liked.
Mm-hmm. They hide in the laser room, and I went, oh, Chekhov's laser, here we go.
Spike confronts them with the gun, and the thing starts wrapping its tentacle around his leg, and he does not notice the tentacle around his leg until it literally stabs him in the crotch.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. And then we find out that the monster can shoot spikes. Because it's got kind of...
It does have, like, porcupine quills.
Yeah, but it shoots them, apparently.
Yeah.
And then we use the laser on the monster. I think because earlier they said if you shot the laser at the radiation stuff, it would explode.
Yes, that's exactly what he
said.
says.
So I guess because the monster's radiation, it will explode.
Yeah. He at that point, the monster had grabbed Chrissy and was about to kill her.
Right.
I don't know if we said that. Yeah. So Mulaney quickly is like, laser blast.
And so they run out of the school. The fat guy who runs the power plant is in the school at this point being like, there's nothing wrong here. And they're like, we have to get out of here.
We get some cool explosions that are shot really tight on some miniatures, and then B-roll of actual building implosions, which I thought was very even though I saw the trick, I was like, good on you. That's a really smart move.
It's very clever. So the school blows up and collapses with the plant guy inside, and then the PA system still works and says, our school is closed for remodeling.
Yeah, and everyone cheers, and it's like, the ending of The Breakfast Club almost, and then the rubble starts shifting and blah, the tentacle monster lives.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Would you rather keep this ending where the monster pops out and we freeze frame, or get an Animal House ending where they freeze frame on a couple characters and tell you what happened to them after?
That would be fine.
With the caveat that you can include the baby monster as one of the characters that gets freeze framed on.
Then definitely, yes, that's much funnier.
Okay.
Yeah, way funnier if it's like Chrissy and Mulaney got married and their next baby didn't have any tentacles, and then the 2 nerdlingers realized they were actually in love with each other and they had a relationship, and then the monster is still out there.
Looking for someone special.
Yeah. Did you look up this movie and learn about if it had sequels?
Well, I know it has sequels. I just don't know anything about them.
Okay. Do you know how many there were?
I want to say that there was they were Nuke Em High 4, I think.
5, actually.
Oh.
We have 1991, Class of Nuke Em High 2, Subhumanoid Meltdown. 1994, Class of Nuke Em High 3, The Good, the Bad, and the Subhumanoid. And then we fast forward to 2014, Return to Nuke Em High Volume 1, and then 2017, premiering at the Cannes Film Festival, Return to Nuke Em High, aka Volume 2.
I love that that's the name of the last one.
Yes. Really delightfully stupid. That one is directed by Lloyd, and again, somehow premiered at Cannes, which bonkers.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that this movie hasn't also been turned into a musical, but I guess Toxic Avenger already is a musical, so
I thought it had been a musical.
Toxic Avenger's a musical. And
No, yeah, it definitely is, but I thought this was too.
I don't think so. Zombie Prom is a musical, but
I guess I was thinking of Toxic Avenger.
that's
Would you recommend this?
yeah, I would. It's fun. It's short. It's like if you enjoy B movies, then yeah.
Yeah, this is hardcore B movie territory for sure.
Yeah, like Roger Corman would have stamped approval all over this.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to pull up the original New York Times review, but it is illegible in the version they have on the web.
I assume it was negative.
I mean, I can't imagine that it wasn't, but I was still kind of curious to see what they would say. But yeah, they have it. It's like one of the old papers where it's scanned in and you just can't read the thing. Anyway, I would give this a light recommend. I think it's perfectly entertaining if you like B movies. We both kind of do. I don't know that I would ever seek this out to watch it again, but
I might. I think the actors are competent. There's chemistry. The movie is charming.
Yeah, I agree.
It's short.
It's one of the better Troma movies. That helps too. It's definitely one of the better Troma movies. So that has that working in its favor because a lot of Troma stuff is really hard to watch, I think. So yeah, light recommend from me. Certainly in these dark times where you're stuck at home, there are worse things to do. I think this is a solid one all around. But I personally, I'm not a big Troma. I don't swim in the Troma waters too often. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Don't forget to call us with your listener request month suggestions. That's once again 856-DISSECT. Those lines close at the end of April. We'd love to have a review from you if you haven't done it yet. That's at iTunes or wherever you get it. You got plenty of time on your hands now these days, I'm guessing. So why don't you send your favorite podcast a review and tell people, or if you hate it, that's fine too. Just be nice, be honest, and we'll read it on the air. We read all those. It's been a while since we had one, but we like doing that. DissectingThe80s.com has anything you'd ever need, and if you want to get in touch with us, it's Dissect the 80s on Twitter or Dissecting the 80s on Facebook or that number I just mentioned. We will return in 2 weeks with
the Nick Cage vehicle, Valley Girl.
Thank you again for listening to the show. I have been Trip Leno.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.